Conditioning and adaptation are integral parts in fighting games and are usually the main reason why people lose at the mid or high level. Failure to adapt to the ever-changing situations in a match will result in you getting hit more often than not, and not being able to condition your opponent can make it a little hard for players to open up the opponent or even close the game. For people unfamiliar with these terms, they might seem like distant concepts that are hard to pull off. However, it might surprise you to know that people always do it in the game, whether accidental or on purpose. Before we go forward, let me tell you the origin of conditioning. In the 1890s, a Russian neurologist named Ivan Pavlov discovered a way to induce salivation?
Salivation.
Right, yeah, salivation in dogs with just the sound of a bell. The neurologist was able to do this by conditioning the dog to relate the sound of bell to food. This means that the dog thinks it's getting food whenever the bell rings, and that's why it salivates even if there's no food present. Pavlov did this multiple times, presumably for a long period of time too, ringing the bell when the dog was about to be fed until the dog formed the connection of bell equals food, so therefore I will salivate.
Salivate.
Yeah, what they said. Anyway, this is exactly what is happening with conditioning in fighting games. Take Tekken for example. In Tekken, there are 3 types of attack regions: a high, a mid, and a low. There are also special attacks, but you don't have to worry about that yet. The most important thing to remember is the region they hit. A high will hit a standing opponent, but not a crouching opponent. A mid will hit both a standing and a crouching opponent. However, if the opponent is crouching, the opponent will not be able to block it. A low will hit a standing opponent and can only be blocked by crouch blocking. Also, pay attention to this move, it will make an appearance in just a bit. Now, how are you going to use this information for conditioning? Well, you need these first. You need an opponent that thinks. If your opponent doesn't think and only mashes, it's best for you to adapt instead of condition them. You cannot condition an opponent that does not adapt. Once you determine that your opponent is a thinking opponent, you can start the conditioning process. For some practical application, here's an example. Take this match between me and a June player. Think of her as Pavlov's dog, and I'm Pavlov. I got my ass beat round 1 and round 2, so don't worry about that. However, it became quite obvious in the 3rd round of game 1 that this June does not block low. So, I started doing a lot more lows. Now this is our food for the dog. Think of my wave dash, crouch, or sidestep animation as the bell and the low attack as the food.
Nice.
This is where I got most of my openings and even had a great round start. I won this round, but I ultimately lost the game. However, I had already won the set. Why? Because of this.
Nice.
This is the first time Jun crouched to block a low. This means that they're reacting to how I approach the match. They adapted to my game plan, and that's what I wanted them to do because I wanted to condition them, and I wanted them to start crouching. Game 2 is where I solidify my conditioning by doing a lot more lows. Dog bell food, dog bell food, dog bell food. Game 3 is where you start to see me cash out. So what do? This. Dog, bell, salivating, but no more food. Remember the move I told you guys to take note of? This crouching move will only hit as a combo starter if the opponent is crouch blocking or mashing. All of that conditioning that I did culminated to this moment where I can pull off a game-winning combo. This is the power of conditioning your opponent. You might also notice that conditioning can take a pretty long time. I conditioned this June for 3 whole games until I got that opening that I needed to close out the best of 3 set. This is very common to see in tournament play. Now that you have basic knowledge of what conditioning is, let's move on to adaptation. Adaptation is the main reason why conditioning works. If you're getting hit by a lot of lows in Tekken, you might want to start blocking the lows and start punishing them. If you start getting hit by mids because you started to block low, you're gonna want to stand block again, just like the Jun in my gameplay example. Each match in fighting games comes down to who adapts faster and who has the mindfulness to even adapt in the first place. This is why you need an opponent that thinks. If a person doesn't think, they will not adapt and just keep doing the same things over and over again, which will result in failure of your conditioning attempts. This also goes for people who complain about mashing opponents. You need to adapt a strategy that will defeat the other person's mashing playstyle. That's just part of the game. Just remember, the line between adapting and being conditioned is a very thin line. Keep in mind that the examples I showed you are very rough and simple. I'm not a top or high level fighting game competitor. This is very obvious with my awkward movement. I also have a lot of things to work on, such as being more safe and making better decisions. However, this concept is something that applies to all fighting games, whether that's Smash, Multiversus, Street Fighter, or Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising. Knowing about this concept will improve your gameplay and will win you games. Hey guys, if you're still here, thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like or maybe even subscribe if you really like it. This is probably my last fighting game video for a while because I have other topics I want to talk more about. This includes other games and anime. So if you enjoy my fighting game content, you're gonna have to wait for a bit for the next one. But if you enjoy me as a content creator, maybe hit that bell icon so you get notified whenever I have a new video. Anyway, thanks again for stopping by. I highly appreciate you guys for watching this little video that I made. Peace!